Hey everybody, welcome to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'm here with my lovely wife, Dr. Alicia, and we do pillow talks against our pillows to talk about interesting issues happening in the black community. So I'm gonna ask my lovely wife, Dr. Alicia, how you doing today, babe?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm kind of tired. I ain't gonna lie. It's too much going on at once.
Too much going on.
Too much. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. We went to the gym. I had a nice time at the gym and went to Kentucky and the nice drive back.
Well, you drove back from Kentucky just in time for the holiday. Thank you very much.
Yes, I love Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving with you.
See, you're tired too. You're yawning and
I am
everything.
tired. I am tired. You know what I was also thinking about today was I was thinking about all these allegations. Has anybody noticed all of these men, a lot of black men, but some men who are not black, that are being accused? There are all these lawsuits being filed. Jade Arendelle lying his crown. She just texts me like all lawsuit, 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 lawsuit. And so you saw Jamie Foxx and Cuba Gooding Jr. Give me a yes or no. How many of y'all saw that? And also, by the way, let me know if you can hear us. Just give us a quick yes or loud and clear or something to let us know you can hear us. And also, just a reminder, this podcast is on Spotify. So if you want to hear two professors going back and forth on Spotify, you can look me up on Spotify. So did y'all hear about these lawsuits? So you got Jamie Foxx. He's being accused because apparently he's a pervert who doesn't deserve to have his money. Cuba Gooding Jr., who got drunk and was accused of groping. Diddy, who's just been accused of everything, including the death of
Oh, they
Tupac.
coming out the woodworks on Diddy. Let's
Oh,
see
Diddy.
what the woodworks bring on all these other people.
Well, Diddy's like that guy where you're like, nah, I can't defend you, man. You got too many demons in your closet. And then you have Bill Cosby,
Well,
and
wait, did Bill Cosby get hit with another lawsuit? Good
yeah,
grief, the man is blind. He can't even
I know they
see.
suing blind old men. They going out there, everybody. If you blind old man,
They
you got.
got they
You,
gotta exhume people's bodies and sue them. They're gonna resurrect
I
people.
know they're like, we heard Bill Cosby has a nickel. We want that nickel. And then another one that a lot of people don't know about is a guy named Marcellus Wiley. I know
Who's that?
Marcellus. He is a former NFL player. He actually went to Columbia, and he's being sued by a woman who claimed he assaulted her in 1994.
Wow, what was he like? 18 years old back then?
Yeah, he was a sophomore in college. He was like a kid. Yeah, she said that
A
he.
sophomore in college. Wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So 30. So apparently, 30 years out, 40 years. I think Axl Rose, the from Guns N' Roses, if I'm not
Wait, is
mistaken.
he the lead singer from Guns N'
I
Roses?
think I want to say it was Axl Rose. I saw. What was another name I saw? Was it?
First of
Uh,
all, Guns N' Roses, that's my favorite white group.
Not anymore because it's
I
led by an
like that
assaulter.
group. I like that
Because
group though. We can't cancel that
you can't be a
song.
fan because they'll assault you. Apparently,
They got some beautiful music,
yeah, they
believe it or
do.
not.
They
But
do.
anyway,
And then you had Jimmy Iovine. So
who's that?
Jimmy Iovine is the guy who was with the record label who gave all that money. With him and Dr. Dre gave a bunch of money to USC, and it really made me mad. I was really annoyed because Dr. Dre should be giving money to black schools, in my opinion. But he gave a bunch of money to USC,
Hmm.
and so yeah, so Jimmy Iovine's been accused. Like it's like, and what happened is that there's an act. I want to say it's the Adult Survivors Act
Okay.
that
Hmm.
basically the governor of New York gave them a year. She's like, you got 1 year
To
where,
file your lawsuits.
yeah, well, the statute of limitations, I guess, goes away. So you can file stuff from like 1944 if you want. You could be like, it was, it
Back
was
in World War II,
the boogie woogie bugle boy company B,
I was
right?
at that Company B party,
Well,
and you
like
slipped me something in my drink.
I
I'm getting
think
you.
about imagine if they were suing all those men who came home from the war and were like kissing women on the streets.
Yeah, just grabbing women and kissing them.
So they all
I'm
go.
suing you.
There will be a man on earth that has $10 in his bank account after this is done. Yeah. So apparently, anyway, generally speaking, yeah. So these lawsuits, in all seriousness, I mean, assault is a serious thing, right? And it has to be addressed. And it's just been just a whirlwind. It's just been kind of crazy. I'll tell you, the one with Jamie Foxx was the first one that kind of popped up. What do y'all think? Do y'all
Whoa.
think Jamie did it? Yeah. So what they were saying is, it sounds like the accusation is similar to Cuba Gooding Jr. It sounds like they were both drunk. And I'm gonna tell you the truth. I've always told black men, don't be drinking a lot in public and stuff, because when you get drunk, you make bad choices, and that was why I never drank.
Wait, that's two different things. You said don't get drunk in public or don't
Hmm.
drink in public because they're two different things.
Um, yeah, don't get drunk in public.
Okay, drunk. So
And
it's
then,
like drinking to excess,
yeah,
where you're
yeah,
like inebriated and you're slurring your words and
right,
you're. I'm just picturing what drunk people do, and you barely can walk, and it leaves you
right,
vulnerable. You
right,
are vulnerable,
right.
right?
Right,
Mm-hmm.
and I just think that there's just, I think men have, desires. Like, you can see a woman that you desire, and you're able to control that. But when you're drinking, I think men kind of, their inhibitions go away, right?
So that's what you think.
I do, but I know that. I mean, it's scientifically proven. Like,
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah,
hello,
yeah, people.
science.
Yeah,
Okay.
right. And the difference is that a woman can get drunk and horny and make a pass at a man, and the man is likely not going to sue her 30 years later and take all of her wealth and destroy her reputation, right?
Well, okay, according to this act, he very well can.
Yeah, and
That act didn't just
and
say it,
right,
it didn't just say only
right,
women can sue. I don't know of any law that says only women can sue. This is open for
yeah.
everybody, and I think any act of violence toward another person, yeah.
And I think the question becomes, like, what exactly is violence, right? So if you look at the case of Jamie Foxx, he was drunk. The girl says he took her arm and pulled her over to the corner and put his hand down her pants and, like, kind of touched her breast or whatever. And she says that, here's the thing, it was in public. She says the security guard walked away, and so,
Did she kick his butt?
right.
Boy, I would be
Well,
man.
well, that's the part, right? That's the question, right? Does that define violence? Does that mean Jamie Foxx is a man who's violent against women, right? Or, because here's the thing, you and I both know, so we know of a particular person who we would never name, who got a little toasty and went after a man, and
Yes,
you know what I'm
I
talking
know what you're
about.
talking
You
about.
know what I'm
Oh
saying?
my god.
We would never reveal her name. We ain't snitching. But it's like that,
Oh.
and it was inappropriate. It wasn't.
And the guy who was attacked
Hmm.
was really troubled by the whole experience. Like, I remember him saying, like, I can't believe she did that. Like, that's ridiculous. I would, like, he felt violated. I mean, he even said, I felt so violated.
Yeah. Now the question is, would he feel justified? Would it make sense if he waited 25 years, sued her, like, let's say found out she was rich, and sued her for, millions of dollars, saying, because you did this to me, I deserve, all the money that you have, or I deserve to destroy everything you've worked for. And I think that becomes the $1 million question. Literally, it's $1 million question. So I don't really know. I think we might have gotten a little bit too far. I think that we don't even know what the standard is. I don't know. What do
Mm-hmm.
you guys think? I mean, I don't think anybody really knows. Like, what's the standard? Can I just find somebody I dated 20 years ago that I'm mad at, who happened to become famous and rich, file a lawsuit, embellish some stories, like, say, yeah, he thought it was consensual, but it really wasn't, whatever, right? And then get paid. Like, that's, there are some people, there are millions of people on the internet right now who are saying, okay, this is just a hustle for, like, and it's unfair
It's a
because,
shakedown. You think it's a shakedown? It all came today. There's a big shakedown.
well, you know what it does, unfortunately, is we know that there are some people in there that are creepy, right? We know there are some people out here that do things that are inappropriate. I mean, if you talk, especially when you look at just the stuff with Diddy and the whole Cassie suit, it's hard to defend the Diddy Cassie suit, because, I think what got me was when Cassie said that Diddy threatened to blow up Kid Cudi's car because he was talking to Cassie, and Kid Cudi's car really got blown up. You know, now, is that
Well, that's circumstantial and alleged,
that's
right?
true? It is
That's not.
that is true. She
It's
could.
a heck of a coincidence, though.
Well, you know what? You know what? In all seriousness, though, you
Yeah.
really could reverse engineer something like that. Like, you could be
Yeah.
like, okay, in '98, so and so's car blew up. I'm gonna go tell them that you were the person who threatened to do it. And if there's no, and here's the thing, if there's no proof that you really did that,
Right.
then you're right.
It's
Somebody,
not enough.
right?
It's
Somebody could literally, say, well, 9/11 happened in 2001, and Feasel Shobi, who's in our chat right now, Feasel Shobi, told me in 1999 that he was going to blow up the World Trade
the
Center,
Chobe hit.
which therefore means that Chobe is responsible for 9/11, which would be absolutely false. But for an unintelligent person, it would sound like, oh, well, he must have done it because we all know that the towers did fall.
Oh, see, that's what I was thinking.
What?
I was thinking maybe someone overheard him threaten to blow up Kid
Mm,
Cudi's car and then say, you know what? He made the threat. I'm just gonna go and do it, and then everybody will think it's him. Oh my gosh.
that's another one too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they call that like a false. Well, I don't know if they call that a false
I
flag
don't know what that's called.
operation, but it could be right. Like and that's been used a lot actually.
Well, here's the thing. Like, it's very difficult to prove, and it's someone's word against another. So I'm not certain how much this shakedown is going to happen, but at least you have it on the record. Maybe that's the thinking of people who want to sue someone for assaulting them back in during World War II.
Hmm.
Maybe they're thinking, let's just get this on the record. Let's all come out the woodwork and get this on the record and say this person did this, so that maybe it could almost be like a Weinstein case where one person came out, then another person came out, and then it became this mount
Mm,
of evidence. Because if it's just a one off on one time, because a rapist is a rapist,
mm.
right? Like you can't, it's not like you can just wake up one day and say, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like it happens. So if enough people start getting things on the record, maybe it's just for the basis of speaking up.
Well, I will say this. I think that, and I got a picture of Marcellus Wiley here, who, since he left Columbia University, he's got this beautiful family. He's got a wife and kids, and they're all sitting around, hearing people calling their daddy a rapist,
Oh
which
my goodness.
which I think that's something that has to be considered, right? These men have families, they have reputations, um, and I guess you're right. Maybe if you have a preponderance of accusations, that could be taken into
Because
account.
I think with Weinstein, I mean, I've seen enough documentaries
Hmm.
now, enough women telling stories that you're like, ooh, this man was getting away with this, and he was really injuring a lot of people. So, I mean,
Hmm.
there are some individuals who need to go down, right? You just can't
Yeah,
walk around
yeah. Well,
violating people like that,
what
right?
I'm looking for are standards, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for like what's the standard? How much? First of all, how much proof do you need? Is an accusation enough? No, it's not.
It's
And
not enough.
right, an accusation is not enough, right? And people have a right to ask you, why didn't you report it when it happened? Are
Well,
you
most people don't report it.
why were you still friends with this person for 10 years?
Hmm.
That was the confusion with Cosby. You had people that spent 20 years bragging about
Yeah.
how they were friends with Cosby, and we know that this happens all the time where somebody, you're taking care of them and giving them money, and then suddenly you stop and they say, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to ruin your reputation. Right? I
Hmm.
have had people threaten me like that. I've gone through this.
Oh Lord,
That's why I'm
let's
sensitive to
not
it.
talk about
No, but
that.
I'm not talking about specific people, but I'm just going to say
Threaten you.
I've had people literally, like there was one lady that was terrible and a horrible person. And I cut her off. I cut her out of the company. Next thing you know, she does a video. Dr. Boyce is a fraud. No proof, no evidence, no nothing. And this just starts saying stuff. Whatever she wanted to say. And I was like,
Well, that's defamation, right?
it's defamation, right? And
Hmm.
so effectively, what then happens is I then have to start having conversations with my attorneys about filing suits against people. And I think that's what is going to happen. I think that you're going to start seeing the men who are falsely accused starting to sue. And also, you're going to start seeing criminal charges being pushed for against people who are found to have conspired to falsely accuse someone. Like, so for example, let's say that we all decide, okay, if you get five accusers, that means you must have did it, right? So then you find out that somebody got five people or four other people and said, hey, let's all accuse them, and then everyone will believe it because there's five of us. And if let's say there's evidence found that they did that, they were like, it was a $10 million plot because it's a lot of money on the line. They never go for justice, right? They never go for prison time. They go for money,
Well,
right?
it's two different cases. It's like a
It's
criminal case and then there's a
right,
civil case. And
right.
I just,
Right, and I agree. I don't disagree that money is not a punishment. I'm just saying that money's also a temptation, right? So if it turns out that you're
Yeah.
like a drug addict and you need money for drugs, how do we know that you weren't just going after money to get
Oh,
dope?
let me tell you something. Drug addicts will do some fabulous things to make sure they get they spend their whole life. First of all, drug addicts spend their whole life plotting how they can get money out of people and then
Mm.
using drugs and then plotting for the next person. Like they are remarkable in their skills and abilities. Somebody's knocking at the door. Okay, keep going, boys.
Yeah, so I think the question for me in my mind is, what is the standard? I think there should be a standard. Also, I think there should be penalties and repercussions for anybody found to falsely accuse a person or to have conspired, right? So let's say we agree that okay, five accusers means you must have done it. And somebody gets together with four of their friends and says, let's all accuse this person. We all slept with him. We can all say it was non-consensual, whatever. Yeah, I think if a conspiracy is proven, you should be charged under the RICO laws.
Okay,
Regarding
wait.
like
What are you saying
conspiracy, I was saying that if you found out that there were like, because that's the thing, people can swarm. Like people can say, let's all make the same accusation, and then people are going to believe us because we're all saying the same thing. You can make, I mean, that's happened before.
here? Uh-huh.
That's
So people
occurred,
get together and conspire.
right? And I think that if you do that, that's a RICO charge. That's conspiracy.
Oh, for
Yeah,
falsely. Okay, so what we
yeah.
might see some of the false accusations, because let me tell you something. If I was somebody and someone tried to accuse me of doing something that I did not do, I am not settling out of court.
Well, the
Let's
prop
take it to trial.
I do agree with that,
I
and
would be so angry. You ain't getting a penny out of me.
right.
And take it to trial. I know I'm innocent and I'm suing you back for lying on me.
I
That's how I am.
I get that, and that makes
And
sense.
I'll fight to the
I
death to
right,
make
but
sure.
but I
I
get that, and that makes sense. But baby, you're not a black man, right?
don't
So
care.
no, but understand. Well, here's what I'm saying.
I would not settle.
Let me explain
Okay, go
why
ahead.
it's not so simple.
I'm
I
trying to go
I
off here.
I know, right?
Let me go.
I
Let me go
know
off.
I know. Let me tell you, I knew a guy who was falsely accused. I knew two men who were falsely accused. And what happened with one guy, and I know he was falsely accused because it was proven that she lied. It was proven she had a pattern of falsely accusing men because it was a payday for her. She would sue the company that they work for and get money from the company because the company would just pay to settle. That's what people are hoping for, that you'll just write a check and settle the suit. So here's what happened. When he got accused, they arrested him at his job in front of all his friends. They don't know what's going on. They see him in handcuffs. He gets sent to jail. Jail is very traumatic. He was in jail for 3 weeks. He had to drop out of school. He lost all his life savings because he had to spend all his money on lawyers. And then they found out that she lied, and all they did was they just said, "Oh, sorry. Okay, you can go now." Like his gift was, "We're gonna let you be free." There wasn't any compensation for him, right? So he was angry. He was like, I want to sue her. Like I want to get revenge or have some justice too. And the lawyer was like, just don't even mess with it. You're not going to get anything. So that's a bias, right? And this bias, I think that when you're just seeing floods of lawsuits and people are just going for this money, it doesn't mean that they're all lying. I'm not assuming that they're lying. I'm saying there has to be a standard to separate the opportunists from the victims.
So I like the fact that there's a trial. I like the fact that you bring your evidence to the court, and I like the fact that you're innocent until proven guilty, right? So all of these things are alleged, right? And we have to put our faith and trust in um, the justice system. Believe it or not, that's what we have. That's what we got, right? We have these systems in place. So what I was trying to say earlier was that yeah, I would absolutely take it to court. Like if now let me tell you something, if I was guilty, I would try to settle. This is just me. If I was guilty, I would try to settle. But I have this thing where this is me personally, me, Alicia talking. I have this thing where I don't mess with nobody, but when someone messes with me, I get real pissed.
Mm-hmm.
And I get almost to the point of like, I think I turn into like, remember that cartoon where Tasmanian Devil would come out and he'd be walking around, he's like totally fine till someone mess with him, and then he turns into like this crazy
Mm-hmm.
monster and he like goes off on somebody. I honestly
Mm-hmm.
believe that would be if someone tried to accuse me of something that I know that I did not do
Mm-hmm.
and tried to do a shakedown, you wouldn't get a penny out of me. like I would just be like going off.
Right.
Like I
And
would be.
I do,
And if I found
and
out,
I agree with that. So let me tell you, as a man who's been falsely accused, I've gone through the trauma of a false accusation, not
it
sexually,
wouldn't be
but
traumatic
no,
for
no, no,
me.
no,
It'd be
no.
traumatic
But
for
let
the
me,
other
no, no, no. But let me
person.
explain. Let me explain. Let me explain what happens when you fight back. When you fight back and you say "f this person," I'm not, or screw this person. You're not going to lie on me. I'm going to fight you. What happens is that when you're a person like a Jamie Foxx and you're doing $100 million business deals, or you're Cuba Gooding Jr. and you've got $20 million acting roles. Guess what happens to black men who are accused of anything when they're negotiating high stakes business?
It's
And
gonna happen anyway.
I get it, I get it. But what I'm saying is that there has to be recourse and a penalty for those who might be lying. It's easy to say when you ain't got nothing to lose. It's easy to say, yeah, I'll scrap with you. Let's do it. Let's fight. We'll fight it out in court. We'll both be in the courtroom looking crazy. But when you are a person that has a lot to lose, like like
But
Marcellus,
that's the
remember
thing.
Marcellus Wallace? Wiley has a family. He has to now deal with the fact that all of his friends are wondering if he's a rapist. He could be fighting it like crazy, but they're gonna be like, "Oh, we don't know. You might be guilty. We're gonna not do business with you, just in case you're a rapist." That's what the black men go through.
Okay, they just go through that and whatever. You know what I mean? That's not something that I think that people should be concerned about. I think it's just what I'm saying is that if if I know that you're falsely accusing me and it's a shakedown, then not only will I be victorious, but I will also come after you. I would get into a place in my mind. Let me tell you something. I didn't get a PhD and get tenure and get promoted to professor by being a coward.
Right?
I fought for my shit.
I get
And
it.
I'm going to tell you something.
Mhm. Go ahead.
Can I finish, please?
Go ahead.
I'm gonna tell you something. I
Hmm.
don't mess with nobody. I'm not gonna harm anybody to my knowledge, and if I do, it's unintentional, right? But
Hmm.
I'm saying not only are you not gonna get anything out of me, but I am also coming after you for lying.
Yeah,
That's what I'm talking about.
and
If
I
I
think
feel like it's worth
right,
it.
and I think it's one of those things where, as a woman, if you get accused of assault, no woman is going to get accused of assault and have it really stick and stain her reputation like that, right? But as a black man, when you're accused, it cuts you. It doesn't even matter if you did it or not. You can. You're right. You can fight like hell. I agree. Yeah, go sue everybody, right? Jamie Foxx be like, I'm suing, I'm
I
fighting,
would
blah blah
sue
blah.
everybody.
I get it, but what I'm saying to you though is,
Hmm.
you look at, for example, the brother with Marvel, Jonathan Majors. He's done. Marvel's dumping his ass. Marvel's like, we don't think you did it, but just in case you did, you won't be working here anymore. So that's and this is a real reality for, I think, black men, and this is why I tell black men, start your own business. Don't go into corporate America, because if you have consensual sex with someone and they get upset with you and they decide to misconstrue it, you're still going to get in trouble. You're still going to get have issues from that. But long story short, I just kind of think it's when you talk about sexual assault, there is nothing that a woman can be accused of in terms of things that women typically might get involved with. There are very few things that a woman can be accused of with no evidence and lose her whole reputation that she's worked for 30 years. Nothing. You can't name a single woman anywhere that, or maybe you could, but it'd be hard to find a single woman anywhere that worked 30 years to build a great reputation and then has somebody say, "Oh, well, she did this to me in 1994."
Yeah, but that's happened to me. Somebody accused
Somebody
me of,
accused you of
well, I
assaulting
mean,
them.
not assault, but accused me of something that I feel like I didn't do, and that
Hmm.
I feel like it was just like your opinion. You know what I mean? And then it was like, in that situation, it was almost like ruin my reputation. It wasn't true. But you guess what? I don't really care because I know that I'm going to shine through. I'm not a victim in this. And this is what I'm trying to say. Yes, I agree with you, is what I'm saying. But yes, we have these limitations, because how
Hmm.
society sees us, but who cares? You know what I mean? The thing
Hmm.
is that we need to stop being a victim. We need to stop having this victim mentality. Because the thing is
I
that
agree. The women too. The women who made the choice to sleep with somebody. A lot of these women are walking around with a victim mentality. I didn't report it in 1995 because I was too scared
Well, no,
and he
that's
was too fast.
true. The
That's
thing
a that
is,
is that not a victim mentality?
no, it isn't. I think women who go through something like that, I think are survivors and not necessarily a victim. So I think, in a sense, you become a survivor when someone violates you in that way. You become a survivor when you press charges, because I do think that when people are sexually assaulted, they need to go to court and pay for it. They need to be prosecuted, and it needs to go down, and you need to try to do it immediately. And this is the reason why I really think that we need to change our culture and our society about turning victims into survivors of abuse, because it is prevalent. And I think that we need to create an atmosphere where women feel more comfortable coming forward, right in the moment. Because I can't tell you how many times, even in my office and just people that I know, where they are actually violated, and people look at them and point the finger like, what did you do about that? You shouldn't have had that outfit on. You shouldn't have been there. You shouldn't have been drinking, or you shouldn't have been, in this place. You shouldn't have been. Where they blame the victim. They blame the
But
victim.
I thought you said we're not going to be victims.
That's what I said, was that you turn yourself into a survivor when you stand up for yourself and when you press charges.
Well,
So that's what I'm saying.
well,
We need to change the culture,
mhm.
because the reason why people don't come forward immediately is because they're scared that people are now going to look at them and think there's something wrong with them. We had to take the
Maybe
shame
because
out
there
of
is
that.
something wrong with your
There's no,
choice.
no, we
Maybe
cannot, we
maybe
can't
it's
blame
because
people.
I'm not
It's
saying
not
blame
your
people. No, but the
fault
thing is, it's not a black and
for
white.
being
But the thing is, it's
assaulted.
not a black and white thing to me. It's like
But
when
assault
think of no.
happens,
It does happen. Absolutely, we know this, right?
and those people
But no
need
no
to
but
come
but what it
forward.
makes me think about is when I was on college campuses, and I always said college students don't need to be encouraged to get pissy drunk every weekend, because what happens is
Okay,
you have a
okay.
bias and you have this chaotic environment that gets created, and it's biased in favor of women. Why? Well, because if a 19-year-old boy and a 19-year-old girl both get drunk and something happens, somehow we conclude that the drunk girl was not responsible for her choices, but the boy is. That the boy can be held accountable for everything he did while he was drunk. But the girl, no, she was too drunk to consent. She didn't know what was going on. No, y'all both chose to get drunk. Y'all
Well,
both played a
he was
part in
too
this.
drunk to consent too. So I
Right,
see what you mean
right.
by that.
He was too drunk to
So
consent.
she could have
So
taken advantage of him, which is what we talked
exactly,
about, right?
exactly.
Hmm.
And then you're trying to, you have these cases where you're trying to sort out who did what. And I'm sitting there saying both of y'all's little dumbasses should have been at home. Or you shouldn't have been creating this chaos in the first place. Like this idea that that we're going to encourage girls to go to college and get as drunk as possible and do only God knows what, and then come back and be like, oh, but I wanted to sleep with him and him and him, but not him. Right? We don't know. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm saying we don't know. And when you're ruining somebody's life because it's so serious, then you need to take it seriously. Like seriously, because there are so many, people talk about the trauma of being a victim of abuse, and I agree with that. I'm 100% in agreement that
Victims need to come forward. They need to come forward,
yes,
and they need to have. That's what I'm talking
yes,
about. Are the culture? See, what you're talking about is the culture. I'm talking about the culture, because there are perpetrators out there who prey on women. And I mean, they attack them like it
hmm
actually happens. And the sad part
yes,
about it is that so many women don't come forward because they're so ashamed, and their family don't support them the way they need to be supported. When they come forward, I can't tell you how many times I have had people come forward and talk about what happened to men and women,
hmm
talk about what happened to them, and the family, your actual flesh and blood family, will
hmm
sit there and look at you like there's something wrong with you.
well, I
You're the
think,
one
well,
speaking up for
here's the thing,
yourself.
right? Here's the thing. I'm not saying that that's okay. It's not okay, right? But here's the
It's
thing.
never
But here's the
okay.
thing. You're not a fucking child. You're not a child. And I think that what people would say, like Cassie's grandma, right? Cassie, we know Cassie. Diddy's a bastard. I think that that's been proven, right?
Well, it
No,
hasn't been
but
proven. It's
listen.
alleged,
But I'm
right?
saying Cassie. Cassie chose to be next to this man. There's a lot of women who said, "I'm not messing with this dude. This dude is problematic." But she wanted the fame, she wanted the money, she wanted the fortune, she wanted to be next to Diddy. She took thousands of pictures with him, looking happy and enjoying her
She don't
life.
look happy in that
She
picture.
don't look happy in the picture,
She
but
look
she
miserable
right.
in
But
that picture.
remember though, we live in a world where women are powerful. We live in a world where we're told constantly women are equal to men. Women are just as intelligent as men. Well, if I'm sitting next to a predator and I want to be next to a predator for X number of years, and then I come back and I tell my parents, let me tell you what the predator did to me during that time. They would empathize. They'd say, you know, Boyce, yeah, you're right. That sounds terrible. You shouldn't have done that. But remember, a lot of people would not have chosen to be next to this person. Why were you there in the first place?
Okay, so
I've had my
so
parents,
we have to
but
say
I'm saying I've
something.
had my parents.
Okay, tell me. Let me know
No,
when you're
but
done so
listen,
I can speak.
no. Seriously, like if I was down in the project shooting dice and I got shot in the hood, my parents would say, yes, you were the victim of a shooting, no question about it. You should get justice. But then they would say, why were you in the hood shooting dice?
Okay, so you asked that question, why were you in the hood shooting dice when everything's said and done? Like you wait till somebody
Mm.
in the moment when someone's shot, the first thing out of your mouth don't need to be what were you doing down there?
Okay,
Like that is
I
come
give you that
on,
one.
that'd be the worst
Touche. Good
parenting.
point.
I think your parents are better than that. I would
Absolutely,
hate to believe that your mama and
absolutely,
daddy would say that. If they did,
absolutely.
they wrong for
I
that.
agree 100%. Now
So
that I agree with.
okay, are you done? Talking over me.
Is you finished or is you done?
I'm not done. You know, I always got something to
Go ahead.
add.
Well, keep going.
Good grief. Okay. I would think that your parents would not in that moment say, what is wrong with you? Why would you be down there? You know, you would think eventually you get to the point where you can actually reflect on it, but it's after you empathize and you deal with the situation and you press charges and someone needs to pat you up and they need to give you that love and attention that you deserve, like all victims. And it's saying, what were you down in that pool house for? That's shame. That's giving that person shame, making them feel like they were responsible for the awful things that happened to them and they weren't.
Well, I agree with Skylife. Skylife says, but they kept going back, and I think that's a legitimate question,
Okay, so let's
right? Like this idea that if you sat next to somebody for years, and you don't live. I mean, like you really felt like there was nobody you could go to that would help you get away from that situation. You can't go to the police. You can't go and just leave. You know, I think that's the part that people have a problem with. That you or you are a victim of Bill Cosby, allegedly, right, in the 60s. And for 20 years, you were calling this man asking for money, wanting to hang out with him. And what I think the problem is that we get to the point where we just say, well, because you're the victim, there is no accountability at all for you. You don't have to answer for anything because then we'd be victim blaming. No, I think that part of fighting back means no, we ask the hard questions because we need to figure out who the victim is. And because as much trauma as there is from being assaulted, there is an equal amount of trauma when you are falsely accused. The trauma that young black men go through. I know a young black man who was another young black man I met at my event who was falsely accused, and he said, I am afraid of women. He said, I feel like women are gonna hurt me because he said I did nothing wrong with this lady, and he said when I went to Stanford and I tried to tell my story, all the gay students at the Black Student Union told me you're a straight black male, and you don't have a right to speak. And he literally, this is for real. This was a student I went in my event, and
I've
he
heard
said,
this story about 100 times. So
right,
go
but well,
ahead.
they haven't heard it, but I want to share the
Yeah,
story
sure. Go ahead,
because
share it.
I felt bad for this young man. You could clear he'd gone through. It was clear he'd gone through PTSD, and there's no space for the trauma that he felt from being falsely accused.
Yeah, I think they should have a falsely accused day, the whole year, where you can go after
Well,
someone
look at how many black men
who
have died.
falsely
Look at how many
accused you.
black men who have died from being falsely accused.
Okay, so I want to talk about something.
Okay.
Okay. So, I don't know if anyone has ever had like experience working in a domestic violence shelter or working with survivors of domestic violence. And it's not just women, it's also men. Men have, are also survivors of domestic violence as well. The thing you have to get into the psychology and the cycle of abuse and how difficult it is when you're in that situation, how to leave that situation, the level of compartmentalization that happens among individuals who are victims of domestic violence, even people right now. There are high profile lawyers, doctors, janitors. It has no socioeconomic status. Domestic violence that happens in our homes, there's no socioeconomic status of which one person is more likely to be a victim than other. There's been highly educated individuals, no educated less lower educated individuals. It doesn't have that sort of piece there. So it cuts through socioeconomic status, it cuts through culture, it cuts through all of that. So anybody can be a victim of domestic violence. I just want to say that one thing, okay? So with the situation with Cassie, she was so much younger than him. And I think a lot of perpetrators will prey on, people who are real perpetrators. I'm not saying that he was a perpetrator. I don't know that. But that's typically what happens. There's a big age group difference. So though that's the kind of person that's more likely to be caught in. It's like a cycle of abuse that you're caught into. Now I can go into depth if you have questions about that, but like it is a definitely a real thing when you think about the psychology of abusive patterns in relationships.
Well, I don't doubt it. I mean, I respect your expertise in that area, and
If you
actually,
have questions, I'll answer
I'm
you.
gonna give everybody your website, coachingwithdralicia.com. By the way, you're listening to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. This is my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins, and we're talking about all these accusations that have been coming out about Cuba Gooding Jr., Diddy, new Cosby allegations. Lots of people being sued, even Marcellus Wiley, Columbia graduate, who's happily married. He's being sued for something that someone claimed happened in 1994. And we're trying to talk about what the standard should be. Like, should there be a standard, or should it be okay, just sort of a free for all, to accuse anybody that you think could give you money, or and how do you respond to that? Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. I'll say this: I don't doubt a single thing that you're saying. I really don't. I think that everything you're saying, I've seen it. I'm very serious about domestic violence, actually, because I had a friend that was just murdered by her husband, and I've talked to you about that. And a woman that spoke, Robin Simpson, who just spoke at our All Black National Convention in 2019. It is terrible, right? It's absolutely horrible, and
And she was leaving her husband. I just want to say, she was
mhm,
in the process of leaving her husband
right,
when he murdered her. And by the way, that is the moment where a victim, it doesn't have to be a woman, but let's just say a woman, that's the moment where a woman is more vulnerable to being attacked by their spouse, is in that window when they're actually leaving, when they're
yes,
ending the relationship. That's the red zone,
yes,
So it's dangerous to leave. It's easy for us to sit here and say, why don't they just leave? Well, you know what? You can't just leave. You have to plan for that. You have to,
mhm.
there's is a strategic way, especially as in the helping profession. You can't just tell somebody just up and leave. That could create a very dangerous situation for them.
Right, and I do agree with that 100%. Right, so I think that with all respect to what you're referring to, I think that it's important to look at the world in kind of some simple ways. Right, number one, here's some simple facts: violence has no place in a relationship. Give me a yes in the chat if you agree with us that you don't put your hands on him, you don't put your hands on her. Like, just nobody. We don't need nobody putting their hands on nobody, right? And you showed me a statistic that showed that black couples just have a much higher rate of people fighting, physically to resolve their differences than other groups, right? So I think that's a simple rule to follow, right? And really, and in fact, when I'm talking about men and defending men, I'm not going to defend a guy who would put his hands on a woman. In fact, I'm so old school with it. I don't believe you should ever put your hands on a woman, even if she put her hands on you. Just because she broke the rules don't mean you need to break the rules. Just because she got stupid don't mean you got to get stupid, because you're bigger than her. You have testosterone. She does not. I don't think, like, if you hit me, I would not hit you. I would just leave. I would walk away. Right. So that's clear, right? Now, then you've got those other cases outside of those, right? You take away, put aside the clear situations where, where somebody's beating somebody up, um, or killing somebody. We know how those end up. None of these situations involve anything that extreme. You're talking, when you get to talking about the other 99.9% of all situations, it becomes a little more ambiguous in certain scenarios, right? It's a little fuzzy, right? You don't really know who the victim or victimizer was. Like we talked about the Kiki Palmer thing, and I'm gonna tell you, the internet is throwing around, receipts, because on one hand, Kiki's like, "Oh, I was abused. He did this to me. He tried to hit me. Blah blah blah." But then there was this other evidence, the recording of her mother saying, "I'm gonna blow your head off."
No, he's gonna put a bullet in
Yeah,
your
I'm gonna put a
head.
bullet in your other motherfucking head. And I'm like, okay, that don't sound like no scared little victim talking about I'm gonna put a bullet in your head. And all he said is, where's my child? Where's my son? And all he kept saying was, "Where's my son?" And she's talking about, "I'm gonna put a bullet in your head." What if that was a man? And a woman's like, "Where's my baby?" And the man says, "I'll put a bullet in your motherfucking head." Like, think about how differently that would be interpreted by the media. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? And so I really think it's like you have a point where you have some people that are taking advantage of the bias. That's the point. You have some women who ain't nobody's victim, who ain't nobody's little pussycat, who are saying, "Oh, girl, I can go get paid and get revenge on this motherfucker by staining his reputation and jumping in the pool with all the victims and pretending to be
Hmm.
a victim."
Now,
You know,
doesn't it
and and,
have to
and
be more than just your word? Like, don't you have to have? Of course, you have to tell your story and do a testimony. I think they, right? You testify or whatever. You have an affidavit where you put everything on record, right? That's part of evidence, right?
yeah.
But doesn't there have to be other evidence as well? Stop messing with me when I'm
Well,
talking.
I think that,
Y'all,
yeah.
hold on. Y'all don't know.
I
Like when
th-
I'm talking, Boyce is like really messing with
Yeah,
me. Why don't you
I
stop?
was I was squeezing her
You are
nose.
so. By the way, Boyce is so distracting doing these pillow talks. I gotta like keep my frame of thought. Okay, go on.
I know.
Go on.
So
I'm not messing with you, but you messing with
this
me.
recording will be the evidence if she ever tries to come back 30 years later and say he was beating me up the whole
No,
time.
you weren't beating me up on pillow talk, but you're distracting. Stop being distracting.
Anyway,
Go
but
ahead.
no, but in all seriousness, I think you're right. I think that
There has to be more
I
evidence,
know in
right?
civil. Well,
Pictures,
here's the thing. Okay, so here's the thing.
text
But
messages,
here's the thing, right? In
emails.
civil court, you need a preponderance of the evidence. That means there has to be a 51% chance that the person did what they did. Right now, here's the thing that's interesting. A lot of these cases get settled. And I think that this is the problem. This is where the fraud does occur in some cases. When the fraud occurs where somebody says, "I know that you're gonna lose so much money from the accusation than the bad press that you'll write me a check." This is the Gloria Allred hustle. Gloria Allred's daughter revealed the whole
The
game.
hustle.
Yeah, her and her daughter have both made millions of dollars because they're both Lisa something's her daughter. And do you know that Gloria Allred, who's known as the main attorney that women go to when they're suing men, her daughter literally offered to represent Harvey Weinstein. And her daughter literally said to Harvey Weinstein's team, she sent a memo that was reported in the New York Times, and she said, "These women, she said, their stories are usually very weak and they fall apart under questioning. If you ask them hard questions, they won't be able to answer them. And these women are just, they're just not ready. Their stories are very flimsy."
Yeah, so they throw out a lot of the people. A lot of that's the thing. When lawyers are looking for cases to take up, they're not going to take flimsy cases. Lawyers
Oh, they just
when
say, well,
people well, wait a minute. This is my understanding because I know some lawyers. They'll just be like, "Okay, tell me what's going on." Okay, how can you prove that? Like, lawyers when they're interviewing for clients, no?
I don't
My
think,
understanding is that
I
when
don't,
lawyers
I think
interview
that
for
if
clients, they're
somebody,
just like,
if
"What's going
if
on?"
they're
Like,
if they're representing somebody who's suing someone who's rich enough that they believe that the
they'll
person,
just take anything.
well, yeah, because a lot of these cases get settled.
Okay, so
They
my
get set right. So
can I
if
just say what
so,
my
but think
understanding
about it.
is?
Like, so if I sue you for 20 million and you're willing to write a check for 1 million just to make it go away, yeah, I can get $1 million payday just by making the accusation. I ain't got to prove nothing. Go ahead.
I was saying that I don't know if lawyers really think about whether they did it or not, but I think lawyers are just like, look, what evidence do you have? Okay, this is your word. That's part of your evidence. You know, we get you on the record. That's part of your evidence. But what else do you have? My understanding is that women who have a very weak case, that a lot of lawyers won't even pick them up. They'll say, you know, I'm not going to waste my time with this case if I don't feel like it's very plausible. Like you don't have enough evidence. Like my understanding is that lawyers can tell somebody, this is something I'm not interested in. This is not even worth my time and effort.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I don't know, but that was my understanding.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Get somebody else to do it.
I'll say this. I mean, maybe you're right. I will say for sure that I'm only talking to black men who would never assault anybody. You really got to be careful because I do think that there are people who are abusing the system. Now, for the men who are assaulters or whatever, um, I can't speak to them because I don't know how to tell a rapist to not rape anybody, right? That's not, we know that that's not appropriate, but they don't care what I think on that. Now, the thing about it is that um, there are all these other cases that are kind of in the middle
The gray,
where the gray areas
gray
for
areas.
sure,
Yeah.
right? Like like with Jamie Foxx, it sounded like he was drinking and he ended up kind of getting cozy with a woman, right? Is that worth her suing him for millions of dollars? Is she really that traumatized? I think that's something that you can debate, and I think you can debate it without being accused of being some sort of victim blamer or sexist, right? Because I've had women touch me when I didn't want to be touched, and I just said stop touching me. There's never once been any woman who's been aggressive with me where I would think that it makes sense for me to sue her 20 years later and destroy her life, embarrass her in front of her family, ruin her whole career. I just don't think I think that I just that idea that even makes sense to people shows how extreme things have gotten, especially when we allegedly live in a world where we're trying to claim that men and women are equal. If men and women are equal, then why is it that
Who
women?
said men and women are equal?
Well, because that's the whole equality thing, right? Like so. For example, here's the thing, right? If I can if a woman can sue a man 25 years later
Hmm.
for touching her against her will, what's stopping a man from being able to sue a woman 25 years later for aborting his baby? Which is worse, somebody touching your booty or somebody killing your child? Right.
It all depends on the psychological damage. I don't think, you know, it all
You
depends on the psychological damage. So I guess actually you might have a case. You know,
know,
if you say it was one word, well, it's my body, my choice, I guess. But it all depends on someone touches your booty and you can't sleep at night for the last 20 years because of it.
right.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty major.
Right. And that to me means you might need to talk to a therapist because
Yeah,
but
but that's the thing. Like, you do have to prove it. I mean, you gotta have to say, "Oh my goodness, he touched my behind, and I wasn't able. I had to go to therapy for 20 years to process it." I mean, you gotta have to have some evidence of
hmm
psychological damage if that's what you're saying. And going to therapy for 20 years to talk about that particular thing, I mean, that would be something that you'd have to produce
that's true.
as evidence.
That's true. So I gotta get those therapy sessions booked so I can have some evidence.
You're gonna
Well,
plan it ahead.
I know you
You're
gotta
gonna plan your
gotta
future planning.
gotta plan this scheme in
Hmm.
advance. No, but in all seriousness, though, would I say that that all these suits are meritless? No, I would never say that. Right. I think that there should be space for justice. I think also maybe as a society we should train people, everyone, male and female, that your actions are going to be scrutinized. Like because we have equality, your actions as a woman will be scrutinized as much as your actions would be if you were a man.
So
Which
equality
means,
is a bad thing? Like, what's
well,
your
no,
position on
I don't.
equality? I'm trying to understand what
I
you're
think
saying.
equality is fine as long as it's real.
What do you mean by that?
As long as you're real. I mean, again, as long as like whatever I do to a man, I can do to a woman.
Okay.
Whatever I do
Is
for a woman, I will do for men.
okay, is it equality or equity? Because that's not the same thing.
Well, equity then.
Okay, that makes sense. Equity makes more sense than
Yeah,
equality.
equity. I
Okay.
mean, like so I think that it's sort of and what I mean by that is when we say that a woman, like when you look at some of those Cosby cases where the woman was not just not reporting what she claimed Cosby did to her, but she was going actively seeking him out so she can go hang out with him and have more,
That don't sound like
get more drugs
somebody.
and more money,
Yeah.
right? That's I'm sorry, you can't do that. Like people who respect women are gonna say, y'all ain't women ain't stupid. Women are smart like men are. Like what well, I just didn't know, and I shouldn't have to explain anything. No, maybe you should explain that because most victims don't actively seek out the person who has assaulted them over and over. And then it becomes like, well, you don't
Yeah.
understand the
Some
mindset
of
of
the
a
Cosby stuff was a little kind of flimsy. It was just like, oh, come on. Like it was. And I don't want to get into the place where I'm minimizing someone's pain, but I do think the Cosby situation, it was just like some of it. I'm not saying that, I don't know. It's all, well, I guess some of it's been proven in court, but, I do think that he may have done something really crazy and out of line with a lot of women. Let's just come on. Let's just face it, because all those women had the same story, right? But
yeah.
at the same time, I do think there were some. And here you go messing with me again. Anyway, I do think at the same time there were some women that had flimsy stories. Like, ladies, sit down.
Well,
They were being.
you and I think that I mean, that car ride, that Uber ride we had with the
Oh my
guy in
God.
California, the driver. Yeah, we
He was
drove
a
with this
playboy. He was a driver for
Hugh Hefner.
Hugh Hefner. He was a driver for Hugh Hefner. He took us to the airport that one time in that nice car, and he spilled the beans on the
Yeah,
entire scene. He was
yeah,
like, there's a bunch of men in Hollywood that make Bill Cosby look like a Girl Scout. Like, I can't
yeah.
believe he going down like that for doing what everybody was doing. But you know what was interesting? He said that they had to wait until Hugh Hefner died in order to start pressing charges.
Mm,
Because Hugh Hefner, no one could go after Hugh Hefner. He was untouchable because he knew where all the bodies were buried. He was like,
mm.
you come after me, I got something on you. Everybody had to keep, like, Hugh Hefner was untouchable,
Well, he was the
right?
original Jeffrey Epstein. I think that both of
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
I wouldn't be
sure.
surprised if both of those guys were connected to CIA or
Oh well, we all know the.
Mossad. I think Jeffrey
Yeah.
Epstein was connected to Mossad, and that's the effort is like, okay, we're going to get these prominent men into compromised sexual
And
situations.
take
So,
pictures of them and get recorded and get, I
hmm
mean, it's basic. That's what I think that's happening with a lot of I think when you get to a certain level in your career where you like big time have big influence, like big time influence for real influence, it gets to the point where you have to put yourself in a compromising situation because they got to make sure that you're going to stay on code.
right, right.
It's almost like we got to make sure you serious about this.
Yeah, well, I'll tell one story. Actually,
Here you
let's.
go with the story.
Well,
Go
what I'm gonna do
ahead.
is I want to hit one. I want to hit one elephant in the room that I think is interesting. Is particularly with Jamie Foxx and Cuba Gooding Jr. And somebody's mentioned in the chat, and I don't disagree. And then Bill Cosby too. They all kind of like their white girls. I think somebody said that. Who said that in the chat? Somebody said they like their white
What
girls.
is with Jamie Foxx dating all these
Here we
white
go.
girls?
Damon said, "I'm gonna give Damon credit." Damon said Jamie got to have his white girls, and then you have to wonder how much race plays a part in this, right? Cosby,
Well, Cosby
uh,
married a black
Cosby,
woman,
but
but
yeah, but Cosby's
that
background.
marriage, I don't know what kind of
Jamie
marriage that was.
Foxx, Cuba Gooding Jr. Now I don't know about Marcellus Wiley, the guy that went to Columbia, but he was at Columbia, so he's an athlete at an Ivy League school, so
Well, they probably dipping in the snow.
probably,
They
but
spent
this is
some time in the winter.
but it looks like he's got a black wife. She looks
Look at
black
those babies.
and beautiful
Oh my
kids.
gosh.
Yeah, and I
They
don't.
are not having a fun Thanksgiving.
Well, it kind of sucks. Like
It's
you're like,
terrible.
okay, so my daddy is being accused of being a predator, and what's gonna really happen actually when you talk about fighting back is the men. A lot of men are fighting back. A
They
lot.
should.
There are
They
there
should.
are millions of men online who are just tired of it all. There are millions of men. I was looking at the comments, and when I saw it was like on the shade room, accusation, 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 and people were just making jokes about it now. Like
Mm-hmm.
they were just like, okay, so the three, they call them 304s.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, oh, the 304s need money for Christmas,
Here's the
or they
thing.
having a Black Friday sale on accusations. Like it's now become a joke.
Do people know what 304? Because I think like 304 back when they had pagers,
I
if you want to
got
cuss somebody out
hoes
and you got no, you
in
can
different area
you
codes.
want to cuss somebody out and they get on your nerves, you could type
Mhm.
304 in their pager. I don't even think people
Really?
understand.
Oh, that's HOE.
304 in the
I never
pager. You
knew
don't
that.
remember that?
I
You
didn't
didn't know
know
where that
that. I
comes from.
now I know what 304 is. Okay.
This is back in the 90s when people had
I
pagers.
did not know that.
Oh my God. So
N-
you don't know the numbers
No, I
backwards and
thought
how it spells
304.
out a
I
word?
thought the term 304 just came up like in the last couple of years. So it's been around since the
No.
90s,
Come
really.
on. That's how you communicate with people when you're mad.
Oh,
Because
well,
you
that's cool.
because you have to wait for the person to call you back. Pager was just like a number. You could just page, you call this number and you just leave your number on the pager
It'd be
and then it
304.
beeps. And then you leave a number on there, but 304, you leave a message. And then 304
Oh, that's
was like when
funny.
you want to cuss somebody out on the pager. But anyway, so
That's
yeah, but I think
hilarious.
it was interesting. Jonathan, what's his name?
Majors.
Majors, he was also with a white woman.
That's true. Yeah, yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
I think we're
It's
finding
the shakedown.
a trend here. Yeah. Well, I mean, but this is not inconsistent with history. I mean, this is do you know how many thousands of black men have been killed? After being falsely accused by a white woman. I mean, it's just
Tulsa, look at the Tulsa thing.
you
Well, it's
know
probably more complicated than that, but that's
what's
essentially.
crazy about the Tulsa thing
Yeah.
was it was Dick Rowland, I think that's his name, a brother from Black Wall Street taught a class on the real story behind Black Wall Street. Kobe, I think his name was Kobe. We got to have him back. He came into the Black Business School, and one thing he said that was really interesting about Black Wall Street was that Dick Rowland married the white girl that he was accused of touching. A lot of people don't know that in Black Wall Street, that after it was done, whole damn city got burned down.
He ended up marrying that lady.
He moved to Kansas and married her. That's what the story
Did
was.
anyone in his family talk to him ever again? But they
I
would
don't know.
disown him.
Oh, I know they were probably mad at him. But the thing was that I think her name I want to say her name was Sarah Page. Dick Roller
Yeah.
and Sarah Page. Yeah. And I was stunned
Yeah.
when
That crazy.
yeah, that was like holy cow. So but anyway, but you're right. I mean, it just you think about the amount
Yeah.
of death and devastation that has occurred as a result of black men being accused
And
by
and
white females.
the sad part about the Tulsa story is that they are slow moving this story in court, waiting for the last two ladies who are
Hmm.
taking them to court, waiting for those ladies to die. What are like 150 years old by now? Like those are the oldest
Oh,
women in the
they're like
world.
107 and
Yeah,
stuff
and
like
those
that.
women are like, I am not going to die until justice is done.
Yeah, bless them.
But those courts are just going to drag this on. They are never going to speed this up. And that's injustice. Like
Oh, it's horrible.
that's where we all need to get together and be like, no.
It's absolutely horrible. I mean, it's just
And to hear those old ladies talk about what happened to them like it happened yesterday. Like they did not forget. They were like, I was 4 years old and I watched my cousin get
mm,
chopped up. I mean, just the terrible stories that they told. But they
mm,
need to, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what's going to come of it once those two ladies are gone. I think Tulsa just wants to, they just want to erase the whole thing and not give them their justice.
yeah, no, it's terrible. But yeah, but we got friends, Demario Solomon Simmons, my buddy. He's over there in Tulsa fighting a good fight. He's a great lawyer. He's right there with Ben Crump in terms of skill and everything else, and he's committed to what he does, and he's been filing some big lawsuits. And so I suspect that even if they pass, I think Demario is so sharp he'll find some other way to make them pay.
Is he on the case? Is Demario
Yeah,
representing those women?
yeah, I think Demario's in there. Yeah.
That's cool. Next time we go to Tulsa, we got to hang out
Oh yeah, I gotta
with him.
introduce you to Demario and his wife, Mia.
Wait, did I meet him or did I not meet him?
I don't know. I saw last time I saw him, we were in the airport. but I
Oh no,
don't know
no,
if you were
no.
there.
I wasn't there.
But
Oh
anyway,
well.
okay, all right.
This a real we like having just a regular conversation at
No,
this
no, we're
point.
just
We didn't
yeah.
ran out of things to say.
There's somebody. Damon says Dr. A was out here sending 304s.
I
I'm
don't
like,
know what I was doing in the 90s. I'm glad ain't no video back then.
I
Who
know.
knows?
I'm
Who
gonna
knows?
file a lawsuit.
I was actually pretty innocent
You were,
voice.
you were, you were. Well, anyway, everybody, we're gonna head on out of here. It was fun talking to you, and thanks for hanging out with us. You're watching Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. If you'd like to see Dr. Alicia's website and what she does, she sees clients on an individual basis. She sees couples, families, etc. If you want to deal with the trauma to get rid of the drama, feel free to go to coachingwithdralicia.com and she can help you. So God bless you guys. And also, I have a new book out called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. You can find that at drboycebooks.com. And also, my wife, Alicia, her workbooks are also at drboycebooks.com. So God bless y'all. Have a good night. Thank you for listening. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.